Tripp Kramer here from trippadvice.com. On today's video, I want to answer a question from someone who's inside of Tripp's Corner. If you don't know what Tripp's Corner is, it is my private, my secret, and exclusive Facebook group that is only available to guys who are either in the Tripp Advice Accelerator coaching program or guys who have purchased one of my various courses such as Hooked or Infield Breakdown or Online Domination. Because when you get access to those, you will be able to get access to Tripp's Corner. There's 4 coaches in there, including myself, and almost 2,000 guys. And this is one of those Facebook groups that's insanely active. So you can get in here as well. All you'll have to do is get one of those courses or sign up for coaching. I'll put links to those in the description down below. But I want to answer one of the questions here today I will keep it anonymous and of course not give anything away that's going to reveal an identity, because I do keep everything in terms of privacy very seriously inside of Tripp's Corner. So today's topic is, as you know from the title, we're talking about fapping, masturbation. And I thought that this is a good question and something that really should be talked about. So let's go into it. So this person says in Tripp's Corner, masturbation. When it comes to this topic and women, it seems to be more accepted and celebrated. The sheer amount of sex toys, stimulators, and dildos, vibrators. But for men, I can't help but notice this incredible absolute divide between NoFap forever, or if you fap or porn even once, you are destroying yourself. I don't buy that, and think we can have an honest conversation of how toxic and self-destructive porn can be, but at the same time, letting your guys out so you don't get blue balls. You know what else is toxic besides porn addiction? I don't really see a difference between a guy who has porn addiction and a guy who just uses women for sex with no real intimacy, connection, or actual care in the world for that woman. Yet somehow the latter is congratulated and accepted. It's an interesting point. He says, I think we've all had our dealings with the dangers of pornography in past and present day. I myself have come a long way in getting rid of it from my life. Thing is, I also get very, very frustrated if I haven't ejaculated in a long period of time. Personally, I have found a balance of 1, focusing on developing real connections and intimacy with women and having sex be the number 1 goal for sexual well-being. 2, once a week, I will ejaculate, but have reduced the need to do so with porn. It's not easy after decades of hard wiring with that crap. My open question is, what are healthy ways for men to masturbate without getting sucked back into a porn addiction? And I get it. The goal is to be dating or have a relationship with someone so you don't need to. But when you're single, there has to be more practical solutions. P.S. There are also studies proving increased ejaculation reduces the risk of prostate cancer. So this was just interesting to read, to think about, some good questions here, and things to discuss. So my opinion on the difference between maybe a guy going out and hooking up with a bunch of women and just throwing away the idea of whether that's celebrated or not celebrated. Just the idea of a guy going up and hooking up with a lot of women. It's going to be a little bit different than looking at a screen, obviously, and masturbating 1 to 2 times per day without actual real physical intimacy. So I don't necessarily think one is better than the other. I think they both can be harmful. If I really had to, gun to the head, give you an answer of like which one is worse, I would probably say the constant porn masturbation. If I had to say, not saying that you should do the latter. Both are kind of not good for you, because if you're going out and just sleeping with a bunch of women just to do that, that can be an addiction in itself, because what you're doing there is you're trying to, it's not real intimacy. You're just feeding the addiction of sex. And yes, you are using women, and treating them as objects is not going to be very healthy to sustain any future relationships for yourself. On the other hand, when you're at home and there's nothing going on and you're just in front of your screen, I believe, I don't have any data on this, but I think intuitively, I think that can be more addicting. The reason is because it's a lot easier for a guy to open up their laptop and start fapping. That can happen literally whenever you want. You can't necessarily always get sex whenever you want. Maybe if you're spending thousands of dollars on a prostitute, something like that. But that's not for your common man who can actually practically do that. Just to be said, both are not so great. But let's really understand the terrible things that are happening when you are watching porn and you are fapping to that. When you are doing that, you are basically creating connections in your brain to be aroused by images and videos, which is clearly different than what you're doing when you are with a human. And so if you do that too much, that can become the primary source of stimulation for you, therefore making it harder for you to get off and enjoy actual intimacy when you are in person with someone. So that is one of the big dangers of that. I do believe in many cases, with most anything that's not absolutely terrible for you, that moderation is one of the best things you can do. So whether you're smoking weed, having a drink, masturbating, whatever it may be, in moderation, those things will not kill you. I'm not condoning that you do any of those things. I'm just saying we do know that if you have control over things and you're not addicted to them, they won't take over your life and you should be fine. Some people can be moderate with things. Other people cannot be moderate with things. So it all depends on who you are and your personality. Now, if you can handle fapping in a moderate way and it doesn't become an addiction, I don't think it's going to be too bad for you. I don't know if there's, nor have I heard, and I've seen a lot of videos on this that doctors talk about this as well. So I'm just kind of relaying some of that stuff, that there's really a big problem with watching porn and fapping once per week. That doesn't seem to be an issue. If anything, would probably be best to do it old school method and not be watching anything. In fact, people were doing that for many, many years, for a very long time. And that is going to at least help reduce the extreme stimulation, right? That stimulation that you're getting from watching so many moving images at once and being able to see 50 girls in a matter of 30 minutes. So it will help if you're doing it, maybe just thinking about it in your mind. But I don't think it's a big deal. I haven't seen it be a big deal. I haven't heard of it being a big deal if you're doing it once per week in moderation. And of course, you're a guy. It can be very frustrating. It can be very tough if you're single, you don't have a partner, and you're feeling turned on, you're feeling horny, things are happening inside of your body, you need a release. It's not the end of the world. Now, people do go on big NoFap binges, and I do think that's really cool. I don't know if it's, and there are people who do this, I don't know if it's that sustainable, but yeah, I don't know if it's that sustainable to do this for forever. If you do, more power to you. But just understand that when you're doing a binge like this, the good binge, by the way, you are withholding from fapping, doing a NoFap, that you will start to train yourself to not do it as much. I kind of believe that with anything. It's good to go on streaks, because streaks get you to the point where you've had such an extreme version of doing or not doing something to help build a habit. If you want to go and approach women, it's good to do an approach every day. If you want to go to the gym, it's good to start going almost every single day, or at least 5 times a week if you want to really get it going. If you want to lose weight, it's probably good to start fasting and get things going. Now, that's one way to do it. You can also do the slow way. I think specific to fapping, probably more helpful doing less. I think in this case, less is more. So doing a NoFap November, doing something like this to just get you stopping, so then coming back to it, doing it once per week, it might change things and change some of the circuits going on in your brain so you can have an easier time doing this as least as possible. And then hopefully, and this is no science behind this, I think this is just opinion and things I've seen, is that it can help you with getting back out there, right? If you have urges and you want to be with a woman sexually and you're not fapping, well, hopefully that gets you off your ass, gets you going on dates, talking to women, swiping more, so you can actually have real connections in person with women instead of over a screen. So I don't see any problem with making sure that you are reducing the fapping as much as possible, especially when watching pornography. One thing I think that can help, something I've been thinking about lately in order to help guys with this, is when you are watching the screen and when you are in the middle of what you're doing, just think about that for a second. Maybe not right when you're actually in the middle of it, but just think about what you're doing. Think about what that process is. You're literally touching yourself to a bunch of metal components and flashing imagery that is anything from real. And when you think about the concept, it almost seems kind of ridiculous, right? So do you think that's something that you really want to be doing on a daily or 3 times a day basis, 5 times a week basis, 4 times a week? Probably makes sense that if you're going to do something like that, maybe a couple times, and not something that you're doing all the time, so that you can actually have real connections with real people and not a piece of metal. Hope that helps. And if you want to have further discussions and deep discussions on dating, sex, men's improvement, and relationships, check out Tripp's Corner. There's links to get in. Just join the Hooked program or our coaching program, and we'll see you in there.